Ladies and gentlemen, you are now tuned in to the Bridge the Gap Outreach Ministry of your host, James J.R. Edwards, entitled The Good News Broadcast.
When I conclude my broadcast, I often say, and I leave it on my post, don't allow the pains of your past to punish your present and paralyze your future. And I say, keep pushing and keep pressing. That's my motto. Now, do you think that More Than a Statistic was birthed out of your pains, or was it kind of birthed out of what you would consider happy times? What kind of birthed that?
Definitely the pain. Definitely the pain, the low time. Even though I had a support system with my family, the humiliation that came with getting pregnant young. Being that I was the president of the youth choir at my church when I got pregnant. Oh, that wasn't,
right.
That was broadcasted right there. It was, it wasn't, Stephanie is pregnant young. It was, did you know the youth leader at such church?
Right.
So that's the thing. It's all that you have to deal with as far as that, that birth more than a statistic.
Okay. Yeah, because I noticed that sometimes, again, when you're in, people don't realize certain things in offices in the church kind of bring somewhat of a limelight.
Yes.
And it seemed like the people that you thought would have really supported you and had your back are the main ones that seem like they put their foot on you. They act like they have never gone through it.
Right.
And I often talk because one thing that God had told me about bridging the gap was to get the young folk to see where the older folk are coming from, and the older folk to see where the younger folk are coming from. And I've learned just in my time on this here earth, that sometimes there are a lot of the older generation, they're not what we would call keeping it real. Yeah. They will act like that they don't or they didn't experience some things that maybe we have. Right. And I say sometimes 9 times out of 10, if you trace the history when it comes to the older generation, I always say that older child normally was the one that was birthed out of they were not married. I can remember in The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren, he said that there aren't illegitimate children. There is illegitimate parents, which meaning the child didn't ask to come here. Exactly. The child didn't ask to be birthed. That was part of, whatever the parents and everything. But again, sometimes when you fall in the church, it seems like, you are ridiculed. People are like they don't, like they've never experienced anything like that. And so I just want to applaud you that you kept pressing and, kept pushing, because again, I can recall, I would say like when God gave me this initial ministry back in 2001, he said that, it would be a bridge in the gap, but he did not tell me that 13 years later that I would have a gap that would need bridging. And I said, and this is for somebody that's listening, sometimes God will give you a ministry in the time when you need to be ministered to. Go ahead. You want to say something on that?
Yeah, because it's mostly the same thing. I can agree with the more than a statistic, because every day I have to remind myself you have to be more than what they think you're going to be. So even though 13 years later you had a gap that needed to be bridging, every day I have to push, even when I don't want to be that person that everyone else looks to, because I need somebody to look up to, or I don't really feel like being encouraging today because I need encouragement, but I have to do that because I've set this out. I've put it out there. So it's like you're going to be able to do your ministry with Bridging the Gap because you can relate. And sometimes we try to put ourselves in the situations that we can't relate to.
Right. And
then a lot going back to the older saints not being real is that they realize, okay, the secret that I've been holding for so long, now I got to be real and let it out. But see, that's what it is. We got to where, back then it was just we swept it under the rug.
Right.
But nowadays it's just this generation, we just in the forefront with our wrongs. And I'm just saying that's just how this generation is. And then I think the older generation just doesn't know how to grasp it, because when their age, you had a fall, you kind of hushed it. Right. But this generation is just in the forefront.
Right, because I said sometimes in that generation before, even now you can look at it, sometimes auntie, it may have really been your mother.
Right, exactly.
And your grandmother that you call mama was really your grandmother.
Right.
But like you said, I think it's because I said even with this, when it comes to parents, sometimes when we don't understand a situation, we become what I call dogmatic. Instead of the parent saying to the child, like if a child comes and say, well, Mom, I don't know how to do this math problem. Well, I don't know how to do this. The parent say, well, ain't that what the teacher for? What you going to school for? Right. But really the parent don't understand. And instead of the parent saying, well, I don't know or I don't understand, they try to push it off.
Right.
And I say there are certain things that happen in life. It's not so much that we don't know. We just don't understand it.
Right.
And I think the Bible says, in all thy getting, get understanding. And I think that's where a part of the missing link, or where the gap is. So that's what we're trying to do on today. And I noticed that the opening line, you guys have got to get her book. The opening line, you said when you were pregnant, that your aunt said to you to promise her that you would that you will be more than a statistic.
Yes.
And like you said, so now how are you going about doing that? You know, how are you going about trying not to become a statistic?
Because normally when you look at single mothers, they classify you as a statistic if you're living off the government completely.
Okay.
I'm not against getting assistance or anything like that, because I did it too. But the thing of it was, what my aunt was telling me when she said that was, let it be assistance. Don't let it be your whole income.
Right.
Don't let it be the only thing that you have as, this is my way of living. I started college. I haven't got my degree yet, but I still am persevering to get it. Right. I'm working. It's just about going above and beyond what you feel is the statistic. That's what it is. You have to set that goal and go for it. And that's what I do. This, with the organization in itself, I have to say, I feel like overwhelmed sometimes, and it's in a good way, because I started out with targeting my audience being the single and teen moms, but it has opened up to just women in general, older than me, younger than me, and it's like when I get the calls or the emails from women that are older than me, I'm just like, it goes back to the, okay, I'm just 24. I mean, but it's encouraging also that I am on the right path, and that what I'm trying to do, people understand it, and they see that I mean it from my heart, that I just want to be that encourager. So me being more than a statistic, it's just, I'm not classifying myself as better than anyone. I want that to be known too. But it's just that you got to strive to just meet that goal. And I'm big about goals. I just did a presentation, and it goes with your purpose, time and season. And I called mine P to the third power: passion, purpose, and plan. Okay. When you know your passion, you find out your purpose for living, and you can write out your plan. And then you see the vision coming.
Well, that's good, because the Bible says where no vision is, the people perish.
Right.
And I think that's, a lot of people don't have vision. They don't have plans. They don't have goals. Right. You know, they're just I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? They are complacent with where they are. You know, some of them just complacent with welfare, and different things like that. Now, because I know we don't have probably about 7 good minutes left. I tell you, it goes by so fast. And being that you deal with women and you deal with teens, one other excerpt that was in your book was talking about a conversation that you and some of your friends had about waiting, preserving your virginity, and waiting to marriage and different things like that. And one of the questions was, and I know parents, I think that every parent should open that door, because I sat there and I said, when I look back, what my grandmother went through, my mom had to deal with that. And what I mean by that, my grandmother, when she was coming along, she may have to deal with snuff. You know, they did snuff and maybe tobacco. When my mom came along, she had to deal with snuff, tobacco, and maybe they had marijuana or something like that. When I come on the line, I got to deal with snuff, marijuana, drink and alcohol, marijuana, all that stuff. Right. Now, my kids come along, they have to deal with the stuff, the snuff, the tobacco, the weed, the marijuana, the pills, ecstasy. They got so many drugs now, even stuff over the counter that they have to deal with. And right now I see a lot of kids by me substituting in school, they are curious. Mm-hmm. Some of them, I remember the old saying said, curiosity killed the cat.
Yes.
And sometimes they're just curious. They're not trying to develop a lifestyle, but they don't realize that their curiosity can cause them to get hooked on something that they can't release, and which will begin to develop a stronghold over them. So parents, I encourage, just that talk, because I tell you, I can remember when my boys were here, and even with my daughter, it was certain things, when puberty and stuff started hitting, it threw me.
Yeah,
I think I almost cried. When I seen certain things, I'm just like, wow. But I understand that, life is going to go. Mm-hmm. Life is going to move on, and they're going to progress and everything. But the question was, I think y'all were talking and said, basically, would you basically wait? Do you plan to wait until marriage before having intercourse? And one question that a friend said was, what if I wait, and my husband does not satisfy me? Mm-hmm. And I think when we were just talking a few minutes ago, you basically, for that question to come up, we were never supposed to experience anything outside of our husband or our wife. Mm-hmm. I guess when sin entered into the garden and all this stuff started to come about, that's when, I guess our lustful desires began to take control or whatnot. But again, God never designed for us to experience anything outside of our husband or our wife. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, now in this day and time that we're living in a time where everything is starting to become condoned. Mm-hmm. It's popular to do certain things. Right. And the more popular it becomes, I guess it's more like a moral life, but not a godly life. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I guess as that goes, it's like people begin to operate and do things out of their flesh and out of their desires. So as it relates, what is your thoughts? I know you probably asked me that. You asked me that.
Yeah. The thought of it is like when we were talking, going back to that, we were never supposed to experience anyone outside of our husband or our wife. It takes me to that saying, you don't miss anything you never had.
Correct.
So if you've experienced it before that, before your husband and your wife, you don't have anything to compare it to. But if you did, it's most like the consequence of, how can I put this?
Because we don't want George to beat us.
No. It's the consequence of having the memories of what you experienced and what you do have now. And it's like, it's saying putting your hand in the cookie jar before it's time.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it was an artist by the name, I think Al Green had it, said, drifting on a memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes we begin to drift on memories. And I tell people all the time, your mind is not your friend.
Yeah.
Your mind will bring back stuff from 20, 30 years ago that you thought you were over. Right. But again, as they say, an idle mind is a devil's workshop.
Right.
But again, we were not supposed to experience certain things. And I tell people too that, it's good to have an open line of communication, because most of the time in what bring relationships down is money, sex, and communication. Mm-hmm. If one area is lacking, the other one is going to be, it's like that's why I say this ministry is holistic. Now, look, Sam, before we really out there, because I know I'm going to have to bring you back again eventually, I know my next one, I have a person, Dr. Campbell, is going to come on, and we're going to talk about church and state, the difference between the two. But we have some tickets. You have an event coming up.
Yes.
When is that? Tell me about that.
It's May 20th. It's called Transformation Tuesday, Dining in Pearls. It's for the ladies to attire semi-formal and wear pearls. And our guest is Miss Antonina Griffin. Her YouTube video, it went viral. She's the lady that she has a blue shirt on and her hair's up in a bun, and she tells her story through flashcards with Timberland's song "Take Me to the King of the Mountain."
Yeah,
she's coming and she's going to speak to the young ladies, and she's planning to have a special gift for each young lady that comes. So tickets going to be $25, and it's at the Stratford conference.
Brothers and sisters, you've just been listening to the Bridge the Gap Outreach Ministry of James J.R. Edwards, entitled The Good News Broadcast. Tune in every first and fourth Tuesday of each month on this radio station. Also visit them on the web and correspond with your host at www.bridgethegapjae.com. www.bridgethegapjae.com. That's www.bridgethegapjae.com. Or feel free to call 612-888-BTJG. That's 612-888-2845. Until next time, don't allow the pains of your